everyone. My name is Julianne Meyer, and I am the host of Own Your Wellness. Welcome and happy Monday. I'm excited to be here. And I'm actually surprised I'm awake because I haven't had caffeine in days, and I started a smoothie cleanse. So, oh my goodness, not only that, I still have energy. Can you believe it? But I'm excited because I'm finally getting to have this conversation with Denise Dixon. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. And let's just bring her on because I want to have this conversation right now. Hi, Denise.
Hi.
Welcome. I am so glad we finally got you on the show. So
Thank
welcome. So I would just love to start off with, if you wouldn't mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself and your own wellness journey.
Oh my goodness. So my name is Denise. I'm Jamaican. I know you can't hear it right now, but if you listen long enough, you'll be able to tell. I moved to America when I was 14. I went to college in Orlando. I was a high school teacher. I have 2 masters, one's in education, one's in counseling, and I am a practicing life coach who helps people to navigate their path along the way.
I love that. So what does that look like? Because that could be any sort of like spiritually or like, how does that work?
See, I love that you asked that because even though my training is in clinical mental health counseling, I decided to go the life coaching route because I love the holistic, existential, spiritual, philosophical, psychological, biological, emotional, I like to get into all those elements with my clients. So really it's all of that because it's all a part of our person, and I love to be able to embark on those journeys and those different elements with my clients. So all of it.
I love that so much because a lot of people think of, life coaching is very basic. And the fact that you get into the spiritual and like just every aspect of it, like the internal energy, as I like to call it, because everything that is matter started in energy first. So I love that you work with that. And I know that you had kind of a past that was pretty traumatic, but you were able to work through a lot of that. So would you mind sharing about that?
Yeah, I want to say I want to get to the point where I'm like, yeah, I worked through that. Some days I feel like it's still working through me, and it's like a significant role in like my journey and how I got here because a lot of that had to do with not being able to work through that, not recognizing that I was not working through that, and kind of having triggers and symptoms of my own issues that I struggled with. And so once I recognized the significance of the holistic approach, like the spiritual, the psychological, the energy, all of that, then I was able to go through that process easier myself. And it makes me connect with my clients in a way because I get it, not just from theory, but I get it because, it's been my life, overcoming trauma, having to deal with all sorts of anxieties, depression, PTSD, disorders you probably have never even heard of, all while trying to find your role and your identity. Because, while you're figuring that out, you're a mom, you're a girlfriend, you're a wife, you're somebody's employee or somebody's employer, and you're having to, kind of externalize this together person when in fact you're fractured, right? And so that dichotomy brought me into a lot of struggle and a lot of really, really deep talks that I had to have with myself. And that's where I try to help people to navigate those spaces. I like to say I love working with the highly functional, dysfunctional client.
I like that title. Something you said really stuck out to me, and that was that it's that you're working through it still. And, I think a lot of people have this illusion or delusion that, you get through it and you're done. And, or like you become spiritually enlightened and then all of a sudden all your problems go away. And it doesn't work that way. So I'm glad that you, acknowledge that it's a process and that it will keep rearing its head as you go along, because it's been ingrained in you. There's so many, subconscious beliefs and feelings. We keep our issues in our tissues, as they say.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Yes. Yes.
So, we literally embody traumas from our past. So, you mentioned that you've been able to work through a lot of this, but how did you do that? Did you work with somebody else? Was it through journaling? I mean, there's so many different ways.
I just wish I could be that person who says, like, I worked through it and I had like this. I basically had no choice.
Okay.
I had no choice. I was such a mess. I was such a wreck. I lost everything. I was out of control in terms of even being in control of my own body. Like I was just, there was nothing else. I often think of a metaphor of like losing everything and just being in like a closet in the dark in a corner. And at first you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in a closet, it's so dark. And then after a while, there's something about the stillness and the silence. And then there's like a rebirth that happens, through that process. And a little bit of light comes out. So like comes in. I wasn't one of those people who like had an epiphany and took like the weekend workshop on spiritual awakening. You know what I mean? I didn't get the DocuSign on that. Like I had to learn the hard way, and I had to push myself in such a way because there were so many things that I had to unlearn, and religion was one of them. Learning the difference between religion and spirituality, and understanding that if things are happening to you that you can't explain, it doesn't make them not happening. Like, okay, I can explain it, so that's not happening. And having to look into spirituality and energy. And like, I literally had to crawl my way through screaming out to my creator to say, okay, all right. That like C.S. Lewis says, thy will be done or thy will be done, So I was like, okay, thy will be done. That's just a part of how I navigated my journey and how I continue to navigate my journey every day. Every day I have to wake up and consciously make the same effort that I did 5 years ago. Every choice I make, every response versus every reaction. And nobody wants to do that all the time. That's so adulting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Adulting. Like, say again. Can I just like flip that guy off? Can I just tell them I don't want my fries cold? You know what I mean? Go off on a tantrum.
Oh my gosh.
But you have to, and even when you find yourself going off, you are the one you've been waiting for. So you have to bring yourself back to the moment of, am I being the woman I want to be in this moment? And deal with it every single step of the way. And that is hard. It is hard. It's hard as a life coach. It's hard as a client. It's hard as a podcast guest.
Yeah, exactly. No, but there's something, I love that you said that nobody gave you like the answers. There was no, because that's where real transformation comes from. You stopped listening to the outside world basically and started listening to you. And fortunately, you're there to help guide other people, but they still have to do the work. Yes. There's no magic pill that you hand to somebody else and like makes it all better. They still have to do all of the work. And I love that you said that because, I had a huge bad drinking problem and I basically burned my whole life down. And that was the reason why I changed my life, because I didn't really have any other options. It wasn't just, like I had the same sort of experience in that regard where there really wasn't any other option for me.
You like burned everything. There was nothing else left.
I'm like, okay, well, it's either this or death. And I don't choose death.
Yes, literally.
Yeah. So I like that, you don't sugarcoat it.
No, and this is why, like, whenever I do podcasts, people are always like, okay, so how can people get in touch with you and what kind of clients? it's weird because I'm a life coach, and when I'm on these podcasts, I'm supposed to be telling people to call me, but I find myself telling people not to call me more. So, like, I give you all the reasons why. I'm like, if you're really not in a place where you're like ready to do the work, where you're ready for the accountability, where you're ready to feel like this feels uncomfortable in my body, but I'm not going to run from it because it's always been here, and I'm going to have to figure out what it is, what causes it. Like, if you're not ready for that kind of like, beneath the epidermis work, like, I'm not the coach for you. Like, empathy is important, and we'll do that, woe is you, but we'll do that for like 10 minutes. Then we're going to move into like accountability. Like, you're in the driver's seat of your life, always. Even if you're in situations that are so, unfair, unexplainable, just like unjustifiable, you still can be in the driver's seat at any given point. And that's the perspective in which I coach from. And it's not like soft and furry, and it's just it's not, woe is me. It's definitely not. So I'm not the coach for everybody. I really see a specific type of client who is really out of the business of tricking yourself into wanting to find a shortcut. Because if you want to find a shortcut, I'm going to know that you want to find a shortcut. And I want to find a shortcut.
Well, there's and that's the thing. It's like fast food. Do you want a meal, or do you want fast food? Do you want a sit down, 5-course, 7-course meal, or do you want fast food? And it's like, what's the saying? I think I'm going to murder this, but you'll understand what I'm getting at is it takes 13 hours to make a Honda, and it takes 6 months to make like a Mercedes Benz, for example. So, you can have, it depends on if you're willing to do. And I love that you discriminate because you want people who want to help themselves.
And yes, but the other thing too, the reason why I have to be so selective, I'm a person who feels energy. So when I allow you to be in a space where I'm having to absorb some of your energy, and quite frankly, I don't want to, but it's a part of the vessel of the work that I do, then it has to be worth it. You can't have that energy going into my body when you're not even ready to work. So now you're having that energy in your body, and now I'm having that energy in my body, and it's for no reason, because the truth is you're not ready. And so there is a part of that is protective with my own kind of sensitivity, because I'm empathic, so I feel everything. So I have to know that it's okay. I can feel it with you and for you, but it has to be justified. Otherwise, I have to save my bandwidth. I'm like Comcast. I got to save the bandwidth.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. That's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that when you're working with a coach, they're giving you their energy as well, and they're taking on what you have. And if you're not willing to do the work, it can't be one-sided. One of my spiritual mentor always says, the coach does 30% of the work and the student does 70, or even 80-20. So, it's not our jobs to do all of it for you. It's your job to do it. And we're here to guide you so you can find the answer, because I don't know. What are your thoughts about this? I feel like real transformation comes from when you are able to figure it out and internalize it yourself, instead of just being given an answer like a pill. Like, that just goes away. You might be pumped up for like a few days or something, but then it goes away. It doesn't last. But I feel like, you can build on that transformation, and that it takes a lifetime. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It does. I agree. But I think that people honestly don't realize and don't recognize how pain, discomfort, and negative energy feels in their body. Like, they're kind of disconnected from that. And so when you're disconnected from that, your brain, that is just this wonderful computer whose only job is to protect you, it's like, you know what? Anything that's going to make us sensory process too much and feel uncomfortable, we're just going to come up with a way to just not, right? Like, we don't want to feel. Hashtag don't want to feel. So can you just give me a quick answer so I don't have to go within the depths of myself? Because that is work, number one. That is energy, number two. And it doesn't feel pretty. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel tingly. I don't like that sensation. And a lot of times we're subconsciously trying to bypass any minimal level of discomfort. And life is not about that. It is going through discomfort that often prepares us and develop resilience that we're going to need for something else. And when we don't have those little prerequisites met, then when something comes up that's even more devastating, then we're not prepared for it because, you know, it's like we didn't work out those muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point, because your brain does try and protect you, but
it does.
But sometimes you are not your brain. You know, that's the thing you got to remember. You're not your brain. So it's kind of like, thank you for protecting me, but now we're going to do it my way.
Yes. And that's the work, right?
Yeah.
When you get to the point to where you start to like look at those, you know, compartmentalize, like, okay, yes, I know this is how I want to respond, but is that how I'm going to, right? I know this is how I feel, but is that how I'm going to react? Is that how I'm going to respond? And the thing is, there's nothing glamorous about that. Nobody cheers you for that. It's just you. No one gives you a high five for that, you know, level of restraint that you just showed that no one knows about. So, you know, we're in this society where we need so much like validation and feedback and likes that a lot of people, it's kind of like, I don't get credit for that. So why even bother?
Exactly. No, that's a really good point too, because people don't see that struggle. But I'm glad that you're talking about that, because I think a lot of people also really believe that when they start doing this kind of work, that internal struggle just goes away. And it's like all of a sudden you're all zen and
yes. No.
You don't ever want to put anybody off.
Yeah. People on TV that gives that impression. You know what I mean? Like, you get to this point, like, no offense, but when somebody tells me that they're awakened or humble, I have to like count to 10 in my head. Because I'm like, if you say you're humble, it contradicts the very definition of humility, because a humble person doesn't say, I'm so humble. Somebody else tells you that when you say thank you, right? And when a person says I'm awakened or I had an awakening, you know what people who have awakening don't say? That they've been awakened. Because for them, it's just access to the essence of who they were in terms of our, you know, or celestial being, or who we are outside of the, you know, like in this incarnation. So a lot of times the marketing of spirituality and the marketing of transformation is really done a bad job as to what it actually looks like. It's like people trying to look like the Photoshop model. The Photoshop model doesn't look like the Photoshop model. She's getting depressed looking at herself. I wish I looked like me.
Yeah, I wish I looked like me. Exactly. It's not a glamorous process. No, it's definitely not.
It's individualistic, you know. So how transformation looks for you, one small step from somebody else is a giant leap for you, you know. Somebody saying, you know, normally I would have smacked that person, but look at me, I didn't, right? That's a big step for that person. But you're like, no, because you're not supposed to go around smacking people. So, no, transformation is individually.
It is. And comparing yourself to somebody else, that's a recipe for disaster as well. You know, like it's so individual. I mean, I'm thinking about, because I have like my spiritual family here on earth, and there's 12 of us, and we're all doing this cleanse/fast, and we're all doing it differently. And if I was looking at like how somebody else was doing it, I might think, oh my gosh, I'm doing it wrong. And yet
I just want to cayenne pepper in my shake.
I know. I have to start all over. So, you know, it's kind of interesting when, you know, you can just let go of that, like gauging how you're doing by comparing yourself to other people.
But that's drilled into us, you know.
It is.
It's taught. We are taught how to compare ourselves before we are taught how to value ourselves individually. and we're
Ooh.
taught conformity, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like at birth, you know what I mean? You notice all the little babies have the same color swaddle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like it's drilled into us. And then some of us in this cycle gets to the point to where we start to feel like we are more than this, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
more than the expectations that we have of ourselves, more than the
Mm-hmm.
expectations that society or family, everyone places on us. And, you know, quite often you will question your sanity as you're navigating this. You will
Yes.
question your sanity because everything that you've been told, everything that you've been taught,
Mm-hmm.
you realize that you were told and that
Mm-hmm.
you were taught. And so now when things starts to come from the well of just spirit and
Mm-hmm.
you and energy and not from a book, like I don't know how I know, but I just know, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know? I don't know. I just know. Give you the empirical evidence for that, that you just know. We're gonna have to go with that, Bob. Yes.
No, I love that because the, for me, knowledge isn't as useful as knowingness. And, you
Love
know,
that.
yeah, knowledge. I mean, you can read a million books and not be transformed. You can read a million books and, or you can read the same one over and over again and swear you never read it and be like, wow, that's amazing. And then, you know, but to actually that inner knowingness, when you can tap into that, because there
It's,
you have
it's
all the
power.
answers.
That's
Yeah,
your superpower. I know
exactly.
someone that read like every book that you could think of that's like transformative or just like profound. This
Mm-hmm.
person's like read every single one of them. And I just like I don't understand because the way that they are, it's like they've never read a word. And I'm like, how do you even read all these books and not just automatically be changed? Like, not
Yeah,
even like cognitively speaking, right? So it
yeah.
speaks to you wanting to change, you know, not
Mm-hmm.
just in the mind, but in the heart, in the spirit, in a way where you are more than just a responsibility to yourself. You're a responsibility to the people that you love, to the people that's an extension of you, to the environment, to the planet. You're bigger than your ego. You're bigger than your Facebook and your Instagram. You're bigger than the perception that you have of yourself. And that is very hard to sometimes get people back on the path of even exploring or thinking about. Do you find that when you're kind of like working in this space?
Yeah, it is. You know, it's kind of like we're just trained to believe in everything outside of us as having the answers. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of, you know, going within, you know, and just really quieting our mind, quieting ourselves, being in that stillness, and just like for different people, I think it comes differently. But for me, it's just this inner knowingness. It's just like I just know beyond a shadow of doubt, almost like in my gut. And when you can start identifying like where you're feeling things, then you
Mm-hmm.
know
Yes,
you have a
yes.
better understanding of like if it's coming from your ego, because I think your ego can be super tricky. And
Very, very. Like when you start talking about how awakened you are, it's probably your ego telling you that.
yes,
You know what I mean? When
exactly.
you're talking, when you start to give yourself the accolades about your own evolution,
Yeah.
you know, it's the ego. A lot of times it's people around us, you know, that tells us like, man, you know, you're so much calmer now, or you're so much, and you're like, oh, okay, oh, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're just in it.
You're just
you're,
in it.
you're just
Exactly.
being.
You're just being. You're just being. I love that. You're just in it. You just
Yeah.
I met with someone this weekend and I hadn't seen them in like I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
And they said, so we're not gonna talk about the whole human that you just lost. And I was like, huh? And they're like, you lost like 40 pounds. And I was like, I did? And they're like, yeah. So for them, it was I lost 40 pounds. But for me, like this has been my body the whole time. I gained
Mhm.
40 pounds, and that's when you met me, right? Like in that
Yeah.
space. So a lot of times when people see us and they think that we're something different, sometimes we just remove the thing that we took on when in
Mm-hmm.
fact that's not who we were. Like, we take on these labels and these responsibilities, and you'll hear someone say, I don't even know how I'm living this life. I'm such a free spirit. What
Yeah.
happened to me?
No, that's a beautiful point too. And I like that, you know, you're more you than you kind of just maybe got a little off track for a while there.
Yes, yes. And then that's when you met me, and now you think that's me. And
Yeah, exactly.
that's how I look at it spiritually. Like your spirit is like, yeah, you think that's you, but that's not you. Like, I'm
Oh,
you.
oh, that one gave me the God bumps. Yep. I like that. That gave me the God bumps.
Oh, I love those. I love those. I love those.
Yes. Well, on that note, we do have to go to commercial break. So we'll be right back. All right. Oh my gosh, I am enjoying this conversation even more than I expected to. So I love that. And I just want to say before we go to commercial, hello to everybody who is watching us live. Always appreciate you being here. And as I mentioned, we'll be right back after these messages.
When drug or alcohol addiction take over, things begin to disappear. Your friends, your family, and eventually, you. Recommended by Dr. Phil, New Method Wellness can help get your life back with individualized treatment plans for dual diagnosis clients. New Method Wellness provides the most highly credentialed treatment in a safe and welcome environment. Call New Method Wellness for your free consultation and ask about our national accreditations. Together, we can put the pieces back together.
Now, you can vibrationally align your aura. You can gain a larger and spiritual perspective on life, relationships, God, people, wellness, and money. You can also have moments of meditation and reflection any time of the day. And reading the thrilling, adventurous, and mystical story of Shiga will just add more faith to your daily experience of the mystery of the universe. As human beings, we are meant to thrive in an environment where true love is shared, where we are welcome just as we are, a space we connect with others with the single purpose to find God as love within, a place we learn to raise our consciousness and vibration for happiness, wellness, and wealth creation. Transformative, an online spiritual gathering for everyone. This invitation is sent to you by www.livingfaithschool.org.
Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us now, this is Own Your Wellness, and I'm the host, Julie Ann Meyer. And today we have Denise Dixon as our special guest, and I want to bring her back. Hello, welcome back. So, as we were during commercials, I was thinking about something that I want to ask about, and that is, it has to do with energy. And I know that you understand energy. So I'm curious how it is that you align your energy for your higher self, how you raise your energy and your vibration when it gets low.
Oh my goodness. It's really taken me a lifetime, and by lifetime, I mean even today, to really listen and feel. And when I say listen, I don't even mean like with the ear, like, listen to my body and recognize when my energy is low. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I do a lot of, because I spend a lot of time in my head, a lot of that comes with my thought process. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm really not in a position to do anything to raise my vibration or my energy except control my thoughts. Mm. And so what I'm thinking about that's causing my vibration to be low is really important. Like, I literally was in a conversation today with someone, and I realized I'm getting upset because you're upsetting me. And I just hung up. Because like I felt like, I was getting to that place, and I didn't hang up like, I was like, oh, this doesn't have to be the thing in like the middle of the conversation, because that's what I needed in that moment, to not have the conversation until it ended. And then when the phone hangs up, I have all of this that I have to work through. So consciousness is really important, and also exploring. Like, Gaia for me is what Netflix is to people, right?
Love Gaia. Yes. I am with you 100% on that one.
So at nights, I can always find something on Gaia that will like cheat and give me a little jump start with the vibration.
Yes. Yes.
There's that. And then sometimes, honestly, I'm just not able to. And I just have to sit with it, and I have to feel it, and I have to experience what it is, because sometimes something can happen that makes me feel something, and I don't even know what it is, but it just doesn't feel good. And I have to, before I used to try to just get away from it. Now I almost sit in it or walk into it, because I don't want it to be as scary the next time it comes around. So the mind is, I do a lot of that mentally, to be honest, because it's the only thing that I have control of, relatively speaking, to move that needle with the vibration. Yeah.
Well, I love your answer, because most people would say something to the effect of meditation, going in nature, and, and those are all beautiful, wonderful things, but that's not always something that we have the opportunity to, stop our lives and go do.
Yes.
And I love what you're suggesting, because it's practical, and it's, it's something that anybody can do. With practice too. It does take practice.
Yes. I have this one exercise that I do where I will think about, like, I'm on an airplane and I look down and I see the car. It looks like a little dot, and there's like somebody in there, and they have like this whole life, and they're so important. But in the airplane, they're just a dot. And I think about, like the galaxy and the stars and the creator, and how we're a dot. But even within that dot, she is so loving and careful and nurturing and protective of that dot, and I am a dot. And then I think about it, that just automatically makes me feel good, because I'm like, oh, you love me, and I'm a dot. And I don't have to necessarily get that from another person, but I guess gratitude, just gratitude to be a part of something bigger than myself, that protects me even when I can't protect myself, that looks out for me even when I can't. And that like sends good, I call it juju, good juju in my body.
Yes. I love that. I use juju too. I love that term. It just fits. There's something about the word that's magical. I love that word.
It's so funny. Good juju. I don't want no bad jujus. It's good juju.
So my question then too, going back to this phone call that you had with this person, I actually had a similar phone call recently, and I hung on till the end because I couldn't figure out a way to politely hang up. And
Like, dude, don't do it politely. Just
and it's kind of like I had to think about why that was, and it was my desire to be liked.
Yes.
It was my
So
desire.
insightful. So
Yeah.
insightful. Yes.
And it was just like, ooh, wow. And then I realized too, is like my fear of abandonment. I didn't want my friend to dislike me, disown me, walk away from me permanently because I chose to not continue the conversation.
Or you didn't want them to feel abandoned because you know what that feels like.
Exactly.
And you don't want to be responsible for injecting that into them. But to your own detriment, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing though. My spiritual mentor that I talk about actually quite frequently, but, he always talks, not always, but he was talking about, are we willing to let people steal our energy in that respect? Like, why are you allowing that into your body? Why are you allowing these people, or even like TV shows and news and all this, that sort of stuff that's negative? Like, we don't realize how much it affects us subconsciously. And I love that you watch Gaia, because I am obsessed with Gaia.
I play Matchington, and my clan is called Gaians.
I love that. That is amazing. So I know you're not a huge fan of doing this, but I would love for people to be able to find you and continue a conversation if that works for both ends. And so this is your website down below. And what kind of, I've been on your website, but what kind of things can people expect to find there?
So it tells you a little bit about me, so you can decide if you want to work with me or not. I'm kind of clear about my expectations in terms of what I hold myself responsible for bringing to you. Talks about the services that I offer. And then also I have a series of classes that I do year round. Some of them are based on trauma. Some of them are based on promise and purposes. So I have a series of classes, and depending where you are in your life, I have a class that I love. It's called Gold Through the Fire, because it comes, it refines. And a lot of times when we are like going through the fire, we can only feel the heat. We can only feel what we're going through. And it's actually preparing us for something. And we have to stretch our learning curve even in the midst of trauma and trials and tribulation. And it's like, no, it's not. We don't want to learn. Do you see what's happening to us? Like, I don't think you understand what's happening. This is not learning time, And I really work with clients sometimes to see how we can transform some of the perspective that we have and have a paradigm shift in terms of how we're looking at, like Wayne Dyer always says, it's happening for you, not to you, right? And so if this was happening for you, what are some of the ways that you feel like you could be getting something out of this? So I'm tough, but I'm tough because I am competing with the narrative that's in your head that you don't recognize how much it loops. When I'm coming at you, I'm not coming at you. I'm coming at the file that's been embedded. We're going to take out DOS, and we're going to put like whatever the new system is. You know what I mean? We're not using HTML anymore. Coding. And we're going to let you pull it out. Like if you've ever had a kidney stone, gross, but you're like, what? This little thing caused me this hell of pain, right? A kidney stone is a little bit like, and it's like worse than having a kid, because I've had both, So you're going to have someone who is on your side. And sometimes I'm going to let you realize that you're not actually on your side and try to help you to get back to where you're advocating for yourself, right? Like in your case, like the example that you gave about the phone call, like that happens so many times with people, so many times. And the thing about that is, how do we teach others how to take care of us? Because there is something that the other person on the other end should have been able to kind of detect. And they were so in themselves that they couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
There was no room for you in that situation. It was
Yeah.
really all about them. So sometimes when there is no room for you, just be out, because there's no room for you anyway.
No, I love that. I think it's so important because how many I mean, or even I know somebody that like listens to the people that come to the door and trying to preach and stuff. Or it's like, why are you, this is your one life. Why are you spending it talking to
Yes.
somebody that you don't want to,
You don't want to
talk to?
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to be rude.
It takes a long time though, because we want to be liked, we want to be respected and validated, and we think incorrectly most time that if we treat people a certain way, then reciprocity is guaranteed. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not guaranteed. So, be connected to the experience you're having, and sometimes be selfish. Like people are like, oh, selfish. When the person's in the casket laying there, all the other people who are alive always talk about how selfless that person was. And you drove that person to the grave. You know what I mean? They would do anything for anybody. Yes, and they had high blood pressure as a result of it. They would just give you their last, and they denied themselves of what they wanted. So self-care is something that I kind of push a lot to help people to not feel so guilty about that.
So you're talking about self-care, and I love that because people don't realize you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you're not taking care of yourself, then you got nothing to give. Mm-hmm. But, there's a bunch of different definitions for self-care and self-love. And I'm curious what you would describe as caring for yourself.
Whew. You see, you went deep on that one, because honestly, my definition of self-care is to disallow energies from entering my body that I don't want to. Mm-hmm. Right? So if I don't want to be in a certain situation, I want to have the freedom of not being in that situation. And for me, everything that I do outside of that, and I don't mean out of want, like, okay, I want to be a quadrillionaire, so okay, I'm just gonna. I mean, protect myself in such a way that I can be happy regardless of where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm with. And when I betray myself by violating that, then I'm automatically outside the scope of self-care. Because now it doesn't matter what I'm externalizing on, it's all going haywire in here. It's just, there's no self-care at that point. So for me, it's being able to protect and nurture the safety of the emotional and physical space that I'm in. That's it. If that happens to be in Jamaica on the beach, that's a bonus.
No, I love that because you make it independent of outside circumstances, but you're willing to work with your circumstances to create that environment of self-care. And I love that so much. It's such a good distinction because, so many people think of self-care as things like going to the spa. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that.
Like the spa. You can still be unhappy there,
Exactly. But if you don't do that internal energy work, it doesn't matter where you are because what's that saying? Wherever you go, there you are.
There you are.
Thought I could run away, darn it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I love that because I love that that distinction though about making sure that it's not no matter where you are, that's okay, that you're good on the inside.
Yes. The rest of the stuff is just extra. And I have to say, coming from a traumatic background, I think maybe that's why it's so important to me, because I have been in spaces and situations where I didn't have that. And so for me, the ultimate self-care is, as an adult now, being able to regulate and manage, circumstances where I don't have to be in those situations. But yeah, absolutely. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I love that so much. So I'm curious, do you have any like daily rituals that you do to keep yourself in alignment, or does it change?
You know what? I'm so undisciplined and I feel very bad about that.
I love the honesty.
I feel bad about that because I feel like a lot of times, because of how I am, people think like I have this like routine or mantra, like I have nothing. You know, one thing I try to do, and I'm not able to do it every day, is before my feet touch the ground, I want to thank God for waking me up. Right.
Yeah.
So I try to be as consistent with that as possible. But after that, it's kind of like managing the whole, you know, in my head, it's kind of like managing the characters up here and everything that's out here, and just like, yeah, and trying to be connected, because I do have an issue with being grounded, and sometimes recognizing that I'm in a physical body, because I'm so like out there, like I could be here but be out there somewhere. So it takes a little more work for me to be grounded and not just kind of like float away a lot, because I love doing that. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I guess that's my thing.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, a lot of people, well, you know, first of all, I feel compelled to say this. I'm not really sure why, but so my boyfriend is a personal trainer, and people just assume, they make these assumptions about him because he's a personal trainer, that he never eats anything unhealthy and he works out every single day, you know, for at least an hour. But that's not what his life looks like. And I'm not saying he's unhealthy, because he isn't, but
Right.
it is not that picture. Yeah, it is not that picture, you know, like the Zen sitting on the, you know, meditation cushion.
Oh my goodness. I think people like meditation. People ask me like, what's your meditation routine? And the truth is, I'm actually one of those people who cannot meditate, because a lot of times it takes people like 20 minutes to get into that space. I have access to that space like instantaneously. So I'm actually scared to go in it, because if I can get in it like this, I'm like, I may be like, ooh, shiny. You know? But I feel like people think I'm like a meditating kind of like, you know, yoga doing, you know, flaxseed oil drinking person. And I'm like, nope.
I'm still having my human experience
every day.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I had it explained to me once, and I love this explanation, because sometimes when we're just happy and, you know, like our vibration is high, it's just too hard to sit there and meditate. It is. It's because we're already there. We're already there.
You know what? That makes, yes. Because I feel like I could literally sit here with you, and if I needed to access that, I can.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of like people sit there and they're like, they can't get it. And I'm just like, there it is. You know what I
mean? I love that. Oh, I think that that's an amazing ability. And, you know, I think that other people can develop that.
Yes.
But it does take willingness.
Scary though. It's a little scary because I was raised Christian. So like a lot of the existential energy chakras, like I was basically raised to like, don't ever like look at that ever. And so I was having these experiences where I was like, wait, what? Okay, no. And I learned, you know, the name and the terms for a lot of the experiences that I was having that I couldn't deny, but I still wrestle with that because the programming was so deep in terms of who God is and what life is and this little mini concept. And as much work as I've done, there's still days that I struggle with permitting myself to not be tethered to that construct, even today. Even now.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's, you know, neural pathways in our brain are pretty strong. They don't go away. They don't, I mean, you can not use them as much, but they don't ever just go away, especially since, you know, you spent almost your whole life, you know, being taught a certain way. It's not to expect yourself to instantly change or give up all of those old thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and everything. No, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. And now I'm so protective of my relationship with God. Like, I don't even want people to talk to me about it. Like, you have your own relationship. Don't tell me who he is to you. Don't tell me who you think he is. I just want that to be nothing between me and him, her, it. Nope, I'm good. I let that be. Just,
I love that.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's interesting that you would say that, because once again, my spiritual mentor, he talks about how, you know, you got to be careful who you listen to. The message might be perfectly good, but not good for you. Yeah. And so that's exactly what you're saying. And I love that so much, because it doesn't mean that the message is wrong or bad or whatever, but it's just not meant for you.
Yeah, it's not my, you know, like that's this,
Yeah.
that works for you. Like that outfit looks good on you.
Yeah, exactly.
You can rock that. You're wearing that.
You do that. No, exactly. I love that so much. So I'm curious too, have you ever started to work with somebody and just been like, you know what, maybe we should part ways, like this is not what I was or maybe their energy changed? I don't know. Has that ever happened with you? Or
yeah, so the first session that I have with someone, we always both agree that this is just an exploratory session, and for whatever reason, if you feel like this is not a match, great. If I feel like it's not a match, great. You know, we can just like, it's a tester, and I really go with my gut. But for me, the way I spiritually synthesize, honestly, very seldomly gets to that, because it could be a phone conversation. I could pick up energy from a text. I could pick up energy from a picture. I could pick up energy from a lot of things. So I'm not saying never, but now I trust my energy and I trust my spiritual synthesizing. And so I go with that. So if something doesn't feel like it's a match, or if something doesn't feel right, then I just find a creative way to excuse myself.
Yeah, without them feeling abandoned.
You know what? And if they do, I used to have an issue with that, but if they do, you have to work through it, right? Because I used to be obsessed with not wanting people to feel abandoned, because I was abandoned.
Yeah,
and so exactly. I had to get to the point to where it's like, everybody have a cross they have to bear. If this happens to be the one today, let it be a thing that you navigate your way through, and just like that. Because I used to take it like, I don't want him to feel this way, right? And I would actually feel in my mind that there would be some healing inside of my body if I prevented them from not going through something, right?
Yes. No, I love that. Oh my gosh, that is so profound. It really is, because, you know, a lot of times we still have to just let people work through what they got to work through. Like, who am I to say that that's not going to be the best thing for them?
Yeah.
You know, like, and and here's the thing, even if you don't end up working with them and something like that happens, you're still coaching them. That's still a coaching moment.
That's still a moment, right? That's still a moment.
Might not prefer it, but it is still a coaching moment.
Absolutely. I had a couple, and I was working with the wife at first, and then I spoke to she's like, you know, you're helping me so much. I want you to work with my husband, which normally I don't do, but I made an exception. And I had a conversation with him one time, and I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I will not be working with him. And, you know, it was just, it was just something. And I was like, okay, no, that's going to be a no for me. And I'll continue to work with her, but I was good on that.
No,
you know, and limits, like we have to be okay with our own boundaries. And the truth is, you don't have to understand my boundary. That's okay. Because, you know, my boundaries are a little bit complicated. They're like hypoallergenic. They're like free. You don't have to understand them.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Well, we are just basically at the end of the show. So I want to make sure that I pop up your website one more time for anybody who's watching, so that they can reach out and see more about you. And I'm assuming are you on Instagram or social media at all? Or
I am on Instagram, Denise the Life Coach, but all I do is put a bunch of quotes on there.
I love that.
You can just go and just like get your little pump for the day. And I'm on, and my website has all my contact information. But I will say this. I know that we've like gone back and forth on a lot of things. My journey is to help you along your journey. I believe that's my purpose, and I feel it in my soul every time the universe brings me a client. I'm just like, okay, universe, let me be a vessel to pass whatever it is you want me to pass through to this person. So I love that space, and I love the work that I do. And you are the person you've been waiting for. So let's do the process of reminding you.
Well, that's beautiful. I love that. Well, Denise, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Likewise, I want to like hug you.
I know, right? I feel the same way. All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, isn't she amazing? I'm gonna have to have her back if she'll come anyway. But that is all the time we have, and we will see you on Thursday. Have a great week, everyone.